Good evening and welcome to Chaos Tonight. Welcome everybody. We are live as we are each and every week right here on Chaos Tonight. Friends, I want to welcome each and every one of you, and I'll tell you why, because you could be a lot of places right now. You could be watching, well, you're certainly not watching TNA Impact because apparently no one watches that program, but you could be a lot of places. When you were my age right now, you could be watching The Simpsons, but you're not doing that. You're here watching Chaos Tonight, and I thoroughly appreciate that because you people are busy people with busy lives, and you take all your time, well, at least you take some time anyway, to come out and visit me and spend a little time, and I really appreciate that. And I want you to know that we got a great show for you tonight, at least I hope so, because you never know how things are going to turn out, but we're going to do our best to have a big show, a king-size show, a show that you could tell your grandchildren about. So without getting much further along, I want to point to everyone, or not point to everyone, but point everyone to my T-shirt and see that, tell you about some friends of mine about SoCal Pro Wrestling. For those of you that wanted to hear about indie promotions, pro wrestling promotions, this is one that I can honestly put my stamp on and say that I approve of. So it gets the Yellkaos stamp of approval, SoCal Pro Wrestling. And if you have any questions about what it is that they do over there, you're going to want to go to SoCalProWrestling.com. If I had the technology to put it right here in front of you, I would, but I don't, so I can't. I'm terribly sorry. But anyway, welcome to Chaos Tonight, and thank you for coming out, because you're a bunch of beautiful people, and I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Now, without getting much further along, we have to start out the show. We have to clear the air a bit, because... Also, before I clear the air, that's what I wanted to tell you, folks. I also want to remember to tell you that if you aren't getting your questions answered down here or in the QA app, which has promised me to work, you can also drop us a line at Facebook. And if you're not into Facebook, I can't say I blame you, but please do what you can to drop us a line on Facebook or over there on the Twitter at Yellkaos. So you can always do that. And that's really the easiest ways to get a hold and get your question answered, because on this program, first we rap about what I want to rap about, and then we rap about what you guys want to rap about. And you've always got good questions, and I really appreciate that. So, without getting any further along and getting too far off the path, and also on the before we're too long on the promotional tour, I want to tell you fine folks, I have a confession to make. For a number of weeks now, I've been struggling to put together the Full Metal Vegas Classic Gaming Expo, or Classic Gaming Expo Full Metal Vegas. If you don't know about the Full Metal Vegas program, the Full Metal Vegas program has been going on for a long time, which means if you're unaware of it, you're either new, or you just haven't been paying attention, or you don't care, or it's crummy. Something like that. You know, I really can't say it. It just depends on you. But I will tell you that this is Full Metal Vegas number 8. I couldn't remember how many fingers I had. Full Metal Vegas 8. This is the 8th time we're doing this. That's quite a bit. And we hope you come along. But I wanted to put together a Full Metal Vegas or Classic Gaming Expo survival guide, because for those of you that don't know, they've never been to Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas, Nevada can be a bit of a chore. It's a place completely derived from the concept of separating you from your money. And so they're not your friends. You know, they're all the people there are there. There's a reason there's a city in the middle of the desert, because they came because they heard there was money to be made. Classic Gaming Expo 2012. I'm not sure if I told the story or not, but I ran into a few YouTubers, a few guys that were a little more active in the scene back then, not so much these days that I'm aware. The venerable Scott Lewis, who seems to come and go here on YouTube. Meeting Flipper. And Darkstar Dude something or other. He now calls himself the Italian Gamer. I could tell stories about the Italian Gamer, but I won't, because we've got other things to deal with here on this program. But they stopped me, as quite a few people did actually at the Classic Gaming Expo for one reason or another. And they stopped me, and we had a discussion, and they told me that about getting ripped off left and right at the buffets and the restaurants and not finding things they liked. And there was a number of complaints to be had, and then I found out where they went, and I wasn't at all surprised. And I was shocked, really, because the Italian Gamer, he lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. How he didn't know what place was a ripoff and what place wasn't just leads me to believe that he spends far more time diving in GameStop dumpsters than really spending time at the casinos. But I can't say I blame him, because almost everybody who lives in Las Vegas knows, don't go to the tourist corridor. That's where they're going to take off your pants and do horrible things to you. So, there's that. But I've been trying to put together this program, the survival guide for the Classic Gaming Expo, for quite some time. And it's just not coming together. I can't get the format because, number one, shooting videos in this part of the house, I'll be perfectly honest, in the summertime is difficult because the sun hits this room, and this room is just intolerable throughout most of the day. So it's tough to do it because I need to do it with all the windows open, all the windows. The windows you see behind me actually give me a perfect amount of lighting to do those types of videos. But it just becomes very warm in here, and the format I'm choosing to use is not working. So, and this is a lot for me. This is a lot of soul bearing, even though, we'll talk about this some other time. But this is a lot for me to say that to you folks that I can't make this thing really happen. It's not functioning. But I don't want people to go to the Classic Gaming Expo. And if you're going to the Classic Gaming Expo, be sure and make your reservations as soon as you possibly can. Go to cgexpo.com. It's September 12th, 13th, and 14th. If I didn't make that abundantly clear already, you should go. You're going to have a great time. It's the WrestleMania of gaming expos. And if you're going to miss it, you're going to miss out. I mean that. And you're going to see the videos because a lot of people are going to be taking videos in this thing. It's going to be all over your sub box, all over the streams and everything. It's going to be there because this is, quite an event. And you're going to miss it, and then you're going to have to look at it through video. The same way that you look at MagFest, the same way I look at MagFest, because many people have asked me if I want to go to MagFest, and I said, do I want to go to Washington, D.C. in January? No. And then I leave it at that. But the Classic Gaming Expo is coming up, and I don't want people to be left in the dark and to get blindsided by things that I got blindsided about my first time into Las Vegas. So, if you have any questions about what goes on during the Classic Gaming Expo and where to go and what to have and things like that, please feel free to drop a question down below. And anytime between now and the show, because the show, we're 4 weeks out. We are 4 weeks out, and it's going to be a great time. So I hope that if you have the means and you're close by enough, or you just have some way of getting to Las Vegas, Nevada to see this, it's quite a time. And this is going to be a very interesting year for the Classic Gaming Expo. And I hope that none of you miss it. But if you do not get a chance to make it, don't forget, Full Metal Vegas. I'll drop those videos right after the show, as soon as I possibly can. I know there's some people editing video on the show floor and in their hotel room to drop it like that evening. I can't do that because I'll be perfectly honest with you. I like to drink. And if I drink and I make videos for you folks, that's not fair to either of us. So if you'll be patient, but I'll have it up there shortly after the expo. And that's another incentive to get there because you can see it live and in color. I mean, you'll see it in color in the videos, but you get what I mean. You get my overall meaning, So please, if you can, make it out to the Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, that's really what I really wanted to rap about. I wanted to make that confession to you fine folks that I've been trying to cut those videos. I've been trying to make it happen, and it's just not working out for me. So there's that. Throughout the next few weeks, I'll do everything I can on this program and otherwise to drop hints about where to go and where to find a lot of fun. And hopefully I remember to tell you everything. I really do. I really hope that. Because you fine folks deserve that. And not only that, not only the people making it out for the Classic Gaming Expo, but the fine folks that are going to vacation in Las Vegas, weeks, months, years from now. And we want to help those people. We want those people to not feel left out or blindsided because there's a lot in that town that can blindside you. And first of all, I also want to make it clear, when I said blindside, you're not going to get robbed. There's plenty of police in Las Vegas. That's actually more of your problem than anything else is all the police. But you're not going to get robbed in Las Vegas. It's very unlikely. There's some places, well, there's some places in every city where you really shouldn't go after a certain time with a lot of money. So don't think I'm trying to say, like, you're going to get beat up and knifed or something in Las Vegas. That's not what I'm trying to... See, now I feel like I'm making things worse. I'm terribly sorry. But on the other hand, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas, so that's not really my problem. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully I'll remember to tell you every last thing And then maybe you'll remember this, and then you'll go and you'll have a good time, and then you'll write me a letter, and you'll say, Yellkaos. Everyone writes a letter like this, by the way. And you'll say, Yellkaos, we had a great time over there. And then I'll send some back to you that says, well, I'm glad you had a great time. Did you bring me anything? And then you won't have brought me anything, and then we'll both be sad. So, if you go on vacation, get me something, would you? All right. Now, I think I've jabbered on long enough. I think that you fine folks are deserving some of your questions to be answered. So I'm going to look down below and see if there's any questions, and hopefully I can answer some of them. So let me see here. I got to click the button that says newest first. And did I mention thank you for coming out? I really appreciate it. First one right in front of me, Chamster Bailey says, what do you think about Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, Yellkaos? Well, I've seen it, and I'm a little tired of it because in the circles that I travel in terms of social media and some of the events that I go to, it's everywhere. It has been at E3, it has been at the Comic-Con, it is in my news stream virtually every single day, in the Twitter stream on my phone. It looks fantastic. It looks to be possibly the best Smash Brothers ever. I don't want to put too much emphasis on it, but it looks really good, and it looks to be great. As far as for the 3DS, that's not what you asked me, of course, but the 3DS looks great too. So it's going to be a great game, and I'm mostly excited. People ask me what's my favorite feature. At least a few people, and I'll answer right now in case you wanted to know. My favorite feature is the Mii support. I don't know why, but I think that's so cool. Because I played Mario Kart 8. For those of you that ever come across playing with me online on the Mario Kart 8, which I don't do very often, but when I do, I use my Mii because it looks a lot like me, and I think it's hilarious. I like how the Miis have become like bona fide Nintendo characters, and that's neat. I think that's really cool. So, yeah, I've seen Super Smash, and it looks fantastic. And will I get it for Christmas? Probably. Mrs. Yellkaos, or my brother-in-law might beat my ass up and down the street. I just have a feeling. And my little brother's really good at it, too. So I might have to, bone up on that. But let me see here. Schnozzy Schnozborn says, thoughts on the interactive Silent Hills trailer? I didn't hear anything about it. Right before I came on, I saw that Alpha Omega Sin had made a video about it. So I don't know anything about it. Hopefully it doesn't suck. Because it seems like almost anything that's attached with a long-running franchise-ish game series or anything in popular media where there's a television show or a magazine or a comic book, it's usually kind of stinky, and that's not fair. That sucks, So hopefully it's good, whatever it is. I'll look at it later. I at this point in the game, and I'm sure a lot of people who've been on YouTube as long as I have and been in the online gaming scene and done this thing for as long as I have, it's old. I don't get excited for trailers anymore. I don't get excited for announcements of trailers. I get excited for game announcements. Don't impress me with a trailer. Just tell me about your game and when it's coming out and how much it's going to cost and things like that. All right, it's the 90s are over, and you're not tricking people into playing your game anymore. I expected more from Konami. If it's Konami doing it, they may have. I don't know how much stranglehold they still have on that intellectual property. Let me see. WebDriver's Torso. Do you watch Doctor Who? No, I don't see the appeal of Doctor Who. I never have. I know there's a lot of people that really like it and really enjoy blue phone booths, and I'm very happy for those people. It's not my cup of tea. It really isn't. And, I mean, if anything, Doctor Who, I appreciate Doctor Who because there's certain young ladies that I know. I'm not going to name names. They know who they are. But they have a bit of a lusting thing. I don't use that term very often, lusting, but I'm going to use it right here. They lust after not just one, but more than 2 or 3 or 4 people. There's been a lot of Doctor Who's, and there's a lot of lust involved there. And that gives me hope, because that means that there is hope for all the other kind of goofy-looking dudes out there. There is hope, for each and every one of you. If you're a goofy-looking dude and you got big, thick glasses, put on a bow tie, and things might be all right for you. So Doctor Who gives us that. With the way that quote-unquote nerd and geek subculture has penetrated the mainstream. I mean, really, you're actually being exploited if you don't know it. But, with that allows geeky-looking dudes to finally, I guess, be hot in some people's opinions. And that's cool for all those people. It really is. Because geeky girls don't know this. At least a lot of them don't know this. But geeky girls are hot to more than just, geeky dudes. Geeky girls just don't know how to exploit that. Which brings me to another point, and I'll get to the other questions in a second. I wanted to talk about this as I was getting ready for the show this afternoon, and I realized this. There's girls now watching the Yellkaos program. There's young ladies who listen to the 8-Bit podcast. Why, I have no idea. There's all kinds of horrible things going on there. But there's young women, young ladies, and not so young ladies, and we appreciate them just as much as we do the young ladies. Right here on Kaos Tonight. Now, I wanted to make it clear, though, that there's young ladies watching, and I really appreciate that. And unless you're doing it for some sort of sinister reason that I don't know. But I wanted to bring attention to that. But I want to talk about to all the young ladies, and if any young ladies come across this who think that they're unattractive or geeky looking or weird or whatever, realize that there is someone who thinks you're a pretty cool person. At least one. Probably more like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But at least one person thinks you're a real neat person. And take advantage of that. So, I know that's completely derived from what we were talking about. But, hey, I'm the anchorman of the 8-Bit podcast, so sidetrack is just kind of what I do. So, Web Drivers also asked if there was any other television shows. I don't watch television. Mrs. Yellkaos and I have built up a massive media library by this point, so we could really watch reruns for the rest of our lives and never be bored. Right now we're watching The Simpsons again. So, and no, I don't watch the modern Simpsons. I will eventually, I promise. It's weird to me, and I brought that up on this program a number of times, that my favorite program from when I was a child is still on. Even though being threatened with cancellation and moving time slots over the years, it's still on. Since 1989. Really since 1986 or 87 on the Tracy Ullman Show. But since 1989, The Simpsons have been on the air regularly. That's amazing to me. Good for them. Rich bastards. Ian Hutchinson says, who is a YouTube personality you would never want to meet in person, or rather never care to meet? Well, I haven't met very many of them. I don't usually find myself in a place where I could engage a lot of different YouTube personalities. Who would I don't know. I mean, I think Ian Hutchinson's trying to get me to shoot on somebody. And I don't know anybody. Because you really can't judge someone based on their YouTube videos. If everyone based everything I did on just the 8-Bit podcast, you'd have a very different idea of what watching me is like if I'm like that all the time. So people are different in person. And I don't want to speculate because I don't really know. The people that I know in person, at least digitally anyway, Alpha Omega Sin, was my buddy, and Razor Fist and Ed T1138, who I think is watching, and I appreciate that. We'll talk about Ed in a second because I want to apologize for ruining his live stream last week. But Return to Mother Base, and really only a handful of people that I've dealt with, either text message or talking on Skype or things like that. That's really about it. I don't know of anybody I've really, aside from the guys I mentioned at the Classic Gaming Expo and people that I bumped into at a few different places. Like Pat Contry, I bumped into him, like literally bumped into him. I almost burned him with my cigarette at the Classic Gaming Expo. Which would have been a bummer because he had a really nice Atari shirt on, and I would have been ashamed to do that. But, Shame on Las Vegas for letting me smoke indoors. Or at least not do anything to stop. Ian Hutchinson, again, he wants me to shoot a promo, New Jack style. New Jack up in your face, it's your favorite Negro. I don't know what else New Jack style. New Jack shoots on everybody. I mean, he's a really honest man. But yeah, realistically about YouTube personalities, because we are, if you realize it or not, and I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're all kind of regarded as wrestlers, you know, because a lot of people take for what we say, like what we say when it happens a lot, mostly among really inflammatory characters like The Amazing Atheist is one of them. I'm trying to think of other examples. But when he gets into like flame wars with those people on YouTube, it's essentially like wrestlers shooting promos on each other, and which is why I think that mentality still prevails. Even though people don't realize it, you support your favorite YouTuber the same way you used to support, or still do, support your favorite professional wrestler. And even if you don't like professional wrestling, you probably watch reality television, which is the exact same thing. And even if you don't watch reality television, you watch the Olympics, which is the exact same thing. And even if you don't watch the Olympics, you come across politics, which is the exact same thing. So, and think about that. You know, not right away, you don't have to, but if you get a chance, think about that, because you probably do. Because you'd love to see your favorite YouTuber go and beat the pissin' shit out of your least favorite YouTuber inside a steel cage on pay-per-view. You know you do. I'm sure there's a number of people you're thinking of right now you'd love to see me go and beat up and sidewalk slam because they said something you didn't like. And I probably do want to sidewalk slam them because they said something that I didn't like or you didn't like. But, you know, that's not the game we're in. Not yet, anyway. If mixed martial arts and UFC keeps going the way they're going, very soon you're going to have YouTube personalities in there because things are not going well over there or in the World Wrestling Federation. Lewis Williams wants to know, is the Hate Bit podcast still going? Of course the Hate Bit podcast is still going. Why wouldn't the Hate Bit podcast still be going? I've gotten that question a few times. It's summertime. We're always gone in the summertime. We usually crank out a couple of things after E3, and then everyone wants to go do what they want to do. You know, Alpha Omega Sin, he's got a son, and he's away on the weekends. He's got places to be because the kid's out of school, and he's doing all that sort of thing. So he's a busy guy. And Razor Fist, he I guess he travels. He's got to go. You got to go to a lot of places to buy that much eyeliner. So he's a busy guy in the summertime. So we can't fault him for that. And like that, you know. So people are busy in the summertime. It's really hard to do a podcast. That's why you'll notice a lot of your favorite podcasts don't turn up in the summertime. But you'll see a lot of it in the wintertime because a lot of the podcasts usually originate on the East Coast, where you cannot leave your house unless you have to go make a living. Period. Because you have to shovel through 6, 7, 8, 9 feet of snow. There's a number of people right now who are probably going to type into the, you know, if you're one of those people that got to dig through 6, 7 feet of snow, give me a hell yeah. Because you know I'm right. And then you're probably going to hate me because I live in California, don't have to deal with it. But it's hard to get people together in the summertime, at least in the northern hemisphere, obviously. So yeah, Hate Bit Podcast, alive and well, going strong. It's just hard to get people together. So. And that's why I haven't really put too much emphasis on it lately, and that's why I'm doing a lot more now, because the Hate Bit Podcast isn't going, and because, like I said, it's just hard to get people together to do things like that in the summertime. So if you guys will be patient, don't worry, we'll be back end of September, unless we can scrape another one together before that. But once again, people are busy. Probably about end of September, I hope. So. And I don't think Silent Rob's coming back. I tried. I really did. We tried. I think they even put a petition on change.org to bring Silent Rob back to the Hate Bit Podcast. Didn't work. So, yeah. I'm terribly sorry, but that's just the way things are. So let me see here. Mr. Picatoad says, most pointless question ever you will ever read. Sorry. Do you like Oreos? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what right now, Toad. I'll tell you that I like the Oreo cookies. I don't like the cream that's in the middle. I used to when I was a kid, probably because I didn't notice that it tastes like chemicals. But the cookies on the outside, I enjoy. Don't care for the cream. That's just calories and saturated fat that I don't need. On the other hand, you might need it, so don't take what I've said as law. Let me see here. Robert Sanders just woke up. Good for you. Mike Earwick says, did you see Guardians of the Galaxy? No, and I have no interest to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I understand it's really good, but I just don't care enough to sit through another 2.5 hours of movie. And if you tell me it's shorter, I'm sorry. I've got a backlog of movies that I have to get to. Get the fuck away from me, you bug. Sorry, there was a bug. I just don't have that time. I have such a backlog of movies that I have to get through, and paying $15 at the theater to sit with some other jackoff who might spill his soda on me. It has happened before. Some asshole spilled fucking beer on my shoes once. Luckily, they were Converse All-Stars, so you just throw them in the washing machine. They were all right, but they were emotionally scarred by it. So I don't deal with it. If it comes to Netflix and it's good reviews, maybe. And that's a big capital M on maybe. So, let me see. Zotar the Mighty says, with the large numbers of horror games coming out soon, what do you think about the genre's prospects for the future? I think the horror game genre is doing everything it can to prove that it is still alive. Everything it can. And is it in good shape? I don't know. There's variety. It's coming out slowly. There's variety, and that's a beautiful thing. It really is. I think that the horror genre in gaming is in the middle, or in the very beginning of a serious resurgence. A resurgence could lead to oversaturation, but even with situations like that, the cream will rise to the top. I'm not sure. I'm not putting any money on anybody yet. The new Fatal Frame looks like it could be something, but the cream will rise to the top, and I think that the horror game genre is going to do something, and that's cool because hopefully just in time. Let me see here. EdT1138 says snow sucks, and he's right. WebDriver's Torso wants to know if I have any pets. For those of you that don't know, yeah, just off screen, there's a royal python, right off screen. And then we also have a big fat kitty cat. We call him the Schizo Kitty. And one of my cats, the Claudie Man, passed away back in May. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. And it was a very sad day. Claudie Man was my friend. Claudie was, we don't know how old he is. We assume he was about 15 years old because Mrs. Yellkaos adopted him like 10 years ago. And he was old then. So, and, yeah, I miss Claudie Man very much. So, yeah. And then there's a Chihuahua over at she's living with my mother now. Because there was a conflict with her and the cat, so she's living with my mother now. And she's doing quite well, I understand. Saw her just the other day. Thank you for asking. Sword of Kings wants to know my favorite game console and why. My very favorite? I don't know. I really couldn't nail it down because I like so many of them for different reasons. The PlayStation 4 is not one of them. PlayStation 4, I don't like the PlayStation 4 at all. And that makes me sad. I don't know. I really have to break that down. I could break that down by generation, but I don't know if I could break it down overall. And then for different reasons, too. If I were to say my favorite system that I'd want to play right now is the Super Nintendo. If there was a system I could play right now, I'd want to play the Super Nintendo. Or the PC Engine, because the PC Engine, I say the PC Engine, not the TurboGrafx 16, because the PC Engine had a much larger software library than the TurboGrafx, even though TurboGrafx was no slouch. Excuse me, I had a hiccup there just then. Havel Rock says, I hate Steam's new layout. It looks too blue. Well, that's interesting because that's exactly my gripe with the Sony PlayStation. It's too blue. More so than the Wii U. Let me see here. Ed said snow sucks. He's right. Ian Hutchinson is in Sacramento. Well, you poor man. I've been to Sacramento. Could be worse, I guess. You could live in, like, Stockton. On the other hand, I understand there are things worse than Stockton. So, and don't say Emeryville because Stockton is worse than Emeryville. I know that for certain. Just on a point system. On that note, I claim that. I don't claim that to use the jackknife powerbomb anymore because I learned something from The Undertaker that throwing the tombstone pile driver for 20 years is hell on the knees, and I imagine the jackknife powerbomb. Look at me rationalizing this. I imagine the jackknife powerbomb would be too much strain on my back, so I'm switching over to the sidewalk slam because it's easier and it'll probably be a little more effective. And it's easier to pull off without someone having to cooperate with you. That's the thing about the jackknife powerbomb. Someone has to cooperate with you for that to really work out properly. Alpha Omega Sin, he uses the alpha punch. He just punches you, and then you're dead or gay or something. Razor Fist pokes you in the eye with the eyeliner. I know that. And Sainted Magnus does the pile driver into the Marmite. So, Kid Shoryuken, who is recently American again, and I understand is enjoying things, which I appreciate. He says, "Am I aware of Baby Metal?" I am aware of Baby Metal, and are they good? Yeah, but when you compare them to Yellow Machine Gun, they're just okay. Let me see here. Lewis Williams says he'd pay to see me versus Dave Mustaine in a steel cage match. Dave Mustaine is like 57 years old. I mean, see, that's the trouble. Because if I tried to go against Dave Mustaine in a steel cage, you know that Alex Jones would just interfere and just botch the whole thing. So it wouldn't even matter. And you wouldn't pay money to see that because it'd be really expensive because it's expensive to get Dave Mustaine anywhere. Ed T1138 says he would pay to see me burn Pat Country with a cigarette. Well, I think that would be a little malicious. Or maybe not. I don't know. If Pat, if you're watching, watch out. Because there are people that want you to be burned with a cigarette. I'm not sure why that is. His hair looks quite flammable. I mean, that would probably go up like the Hindenburg. So, pretty soon that, like, you know, the Clark County sheriffs are going to be watching me, make sure I don't set his hair on fire. Kip171 says if I could go on vacation anywhere, real or not, where would it be? Well, I go on vacation to Las Vegas, Nevada, because it's close. I'll tell you something about myself, Kit. I don't like to travel. In fact, this is a story I've been meaning to tell for quite some time. There's a number of people, and you know who you are, and you might not even be here. Some people are like, you can't be talking to me. I never said anything like this. But there are people that would like to know why I don't appear at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. There are people who want to know why I don't appear at MagFest. There are people that want to know if I'm going to appear at Retropalooza in Texas. No, I won't. I'm terribly sorry. I was not invited, and that's a long way to travel just to smell YouTube BO. So if I got invited, that'd be a different story, but, you know, that's just the way things are. Yeah, so I don't want to travel all the way to Texas to smell burp, you know, uninvited, just to smell burps and farts and things like that, because you know there's going to be lots of it. Anyway, what was the other one? Somebody asked me if I'm going to go to Con Bravo, and then there's another person. A few people asked me about if I'm going to attend the classic or the Midwest Gaming Classic. As far as the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, I've talked about this with Syphic and a few other people. I have just been dying for a reason to really go to that thing, but it's just so damn far. From my house, because I live in San Diego, I am about as close to Mexico as you can really get. living in California. I mean, if I lived in Chula Vista, it'd be a little closer, but you get my overall meaning in terms of, geography and places in the world. But the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, held at the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon, is 1,200 miles from me. And I thought about taking the train because I don't like to fly. Flying is just such a freaking hassle. And I can't imagine it's gotten any better since the last time I flew. I think I flew in like 2007. And that was just a total hassle. And I didn't want to go through that again, especially for a weekend. It's one thing to fly somewhere, be there for a couple of weeks, and then have to fly back. But I got to fly there, be there for 2.5 days tops, and then I got to fly back. And then there's some people that just go for Saturday and fly back. It's like, you are out of your freaking mind. That just seems like too big of a hassle to go through for that. That just seems like nonsense to me. The Retropalooza, as I talked about already, long way to travel just to smell burps and farts. Especially not being invited. What was the other one? Con Bravo. Con Bravo's in Canada. I'm not going to Canada. I might, if it looks really cool, I might go to the Vancouver Retro Expo. I'd like to go to that because I understand that there are good-looking women in Canada now. There may have always been. That may have been wrong of me to assume that. If I've offended any Canadian people, well, you're Canadian. You're used to being offended. Sorry, when you live in a world that has produced Michael J. Fox and Bret Hart, you just have to learn to accept not being number one all the time. Americans, we just lie to ourselves about it during our pursuit of oil, but that's another story for another time. The Midwest Gaming Classic, I would love to go, if for no other reason than a expo dominated by myself and EdT1138, because Wisconsin would not know what in the hell hit it if Yellkaos and EdT1138 hit the Midwest Gaming Classic. We clown on some of those dudes who are apparently starting a museum that won't budge on their prices as they're loading stuff up into their truck, but, whatever. Love to do the Midwest Gaming Classic. I would love to do that, If for no other reason than that most of the girls, and I can attest to this, most of the girls in Wisconsin, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, heavy usage on the word chunk, is girls in Wisconsin typically have really big tits. And that works out for so many people. So let me make sure that's communicated thoroughly and conveyed properly. Ultra Brutal Fatality. Nicholas Kennedy is here. What's going on, brother? Let me throw you some horns right there. I don't usually do that, but I figured why not. Let me see here. Palkias Paymer. I still can't pronounce that name. I'm so sorry. If you want to send it to me phonetically, I would love to be able to pronounce that properly. He says, do you have a P.O. box for fan mail? I don't. P.O. boxes in California are freaking expensive. Really expensive. I'm not sure if that's because of where I live. I'm not sure if it's that way at all of California. It might be different in other parts of California. But where I live in San Diego, it's expensive to have a P.O. box. If you want a private P.O. box, it's like $75, $100 a month. And if you want a post office box, just a regular post office box that goes directly to the post office, it's still like $50, $60, $70 a month, depending on the size. So, yeah, I've been meaning to get around to that, but I don't know that I'd receive enough fan mail to really justify the expense. Only a handful of people have ever asked if they can send me something, and you guys can send me things. I'll if you want to send me something, drop me a line at, I guess the best way, if not on Facebook, if not on Twitter, at hatebitpodcast@gmail.com. So feel free to drop me a line there, and if you really want to, cool. Also, if you see me in person, feel free. I just hope you're not giving me like a fart in a can or something. I would really appreciate that. So. I also understand that other YouTubers get like fan art done and stuff, and I don't. I don't know if that's because I'm not good looking or I'm not interesting or what it is, but Alpha Omega Sin showed me he gets like a ton of art, and some of it's actually really good. And I know there's a few people in me that follow me that are pretty decent artists. So, you know, artwork is acceptable too, I guess. I want you guys to know that I appreciate that. Let me see here. Let me see. Lewis Williams has a serious question. He says, "What what noise does a giraffe make?" I don't know. They make lots of sounds. I've heard a giraffe fart once. Serious. Mrs. Yellkaos and I, we were at the Africa section of the San Diego Zoo, and I swear to you, I heard a giraffe fart. And then the other giraffe ran. And then I just almost fell down laughing because I wonder if they were running from his fart. And then I said, that paid for the zoo membership right there. That was worth the price of admission right there. So, farting noises, apparently. Blade Bison wants to know what superpower I would have if I could only have one. If I could have one superpower? Well, now I wonder, would I pick a selfish superpower, or would I pick a superpower that would help the world, the community overall? My selfish superpower would be telekinesis or superhuman physical strength. But see, I'd have to remember not to use those for evil. But if I did, what a ride, right? So there's that. But to help the community, I wish I had a superpower to reverse the effects of ozone depletion, and because people are getting sunburned far too easy now. It didn't used to be like that. So that'd be the one thing I could do if I could just help out people, use my superpower to reverse the effects, you know, to do something to fix the ozone layer. That's what I'd do. And encourage people to be less wasteful, but that's not really a superpower. Let me see here. Robert Sanders says, games you've had instant buyer's remorse for? None. None. I have never, ever spent a quantifiable, sizable amount of money on a game that I wasn't at least sure I was going to like somewhat. If there's a game that just isn't striking me, I won't take a chance on it until it's a really low price. I'm trying to think, is there ever a game I was really burned on? I can't think of one. There may have been one, but I can't say that I ever have. I got burned on video game rentals, and growing up in the early 1990s, you know, $5 to rent a game was serious money. That was a good chunk of your birthday money, if you came from a similar background that I did. So, got burned on the rentals a lot. G.I. Joe on the NES springs to mind. So yeah, I've had instant renter's remorse a few times. The Punisher game on the NES sucked pretty hard too. Do you have a video game that people think is hard but you dominate? The original F-Zero. A lot of people seem to think that's tough, and if you've seen the Y Play of, which is my version of a Let's Play, I just figure, you know, it's so cool when you can just put Y on front of things, and that makes it a brand name. It's really neat. But if you've seen the Y Plays of F-Zero, I do okay. I think so. So I think I do okay at the original F-Zero. And I think I do okay at I do pretty decent at the original Star Fox, despite, you know, all of its shortcomings, which is still a very entertaining game. Robert Sanders lives in Arizona. He might as well be in Mexico. It's like, I'm in San Diego, California. This was Mexico up until rather recently. Let me see here. Let me see. I guess I have to read this out loud. Nick Knack says, "Hey, Mr. Chaos." Hello, Nick Knack. He says, first-time commenter here. I'm currently listening to this while playing Saints Row 3. My question is, are there any band singers you've gotten into thanks to their music being included in a game? For example, I became a fan of Public Enemy thanks to listening to their music in the game Def Jam Vendetta. Really underrated wrestling game, in my opinion. Yeah, Def Jam Vendetta kind of got swept under the rug because of its license, and it's very much an N64 type wrestling game. And yeah, if you can get past the fact that it's, Def Jam, unless that intrigues you, then you're set. It's a pretty decent game. Yeah, there was Primus and Millencolin. I was familiar with the bands before, but like Primus and Millencolin, I discovered through the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. And what else? Does Koji Kondo count? Because I got really into his music after playing Nintendo games. But yeah, if I were to pick out individual bands, I would say Primus and Millencolin. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater did that for me, and one or two others. But oh yeah, like they did Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I'm sorry, Tony Hawk Pro Skater also exposed me to Real Big Fish, who I thought I was gonna like, but I liked that one song, and that was it. So let me see here. Let me see. Kenshiro Online says he was born in 1980. Well, you're old. He says, you cannot tell me with a straight face you did not get fucked by a video game cover. I've never, ever left it up to a video game cover. Also, I didn't have any money when I was a kid. So I wouldn't spend birthday money on video games unless they were like in the clearance bin. I would usually spend it on, or actually I take that back, because I would get games. When used games were really starting to show up in a lot of different places, like The Warehouse, if you're old enough to remember The Warehouse, which is now either Sam Goody or FYE for Your Entertainment or something like that. All of that got absorbed into something. But we still have a Sam Goody in San Diego, actually. But then they started carrying games, and people started getting me, at least my aunts and uncles got me gift certificates to The Warehouse because they knew I liked music, and I got a few games that way. But no, when I was a kid, I never, ever saved up money to buy a game brand new. I left that to my dad. My dad would buy a game, and then he wouldn't like it, and then it became mine. A lot of stuff in the collection that you've seen through collection videos is stuff that my dad bought and then just plain didn't want. And so that's where I came up, a lot of the stuff came from. See, there's a game that was very misleading, like Rumble Roses, which I thought was a wrestling game, but turned out to be essentially pornography. In its own way. So there was that, but again, that game was $10 at Tower Records. If you're old enough to remember Tower Records. So yeah, I have always been very thrifty in that sense, and yeah, I didn't start buying brand new games until the Wii. I've always been a retro gamer in that when I was a kid, we were broke. So you had to wait, and I can't really complain, because I've told this story before, how my brother would trade toys and trade consoles. So games would just kind of find their way into my house, and then they'd leave, and then I had to find out what they were called. And I've since recollected most of those games, but that's how I've gotten a lot of Pokemon games. That's how I got exposed to Gradius 3 on the Super Nintendo. It just found its way into my house. That's how I got exposed to Castlevania 2. It just found its way into my house. So, that sort of thing. I never had the funds, because all the money that I ever got when I was a kid, Grandma would give us, $5, $10. I'd take a few dollars and buy a Nintendo Power, and then fantasize about what I was thinking about the Virtual Boy, because I was dumb or something. I don't know. Never bought one. But even then, though, I figured out that if I just wait, the games will eventually find me, and they did. But yeah. The most I ever spent on a game was on New Super Mario Brothers U. It was expensive, and I said, "Holy Schmidt!" But I was not disappointed with that game. Actually, hold on. I take that back. One game that I felt a little burned on, I just remembered it just now, was the Pokemon Rumble U for the Wii U. It was $15, and it was a bit much considering it's just a button masher. It's beautiful. It's a fantastically done game. It's obviously for kids, and it's just not that challenging. If I had kids or, younger people, that come through my house on a regular basis, then it'd be perfect. But I play it, I try to play it like once a month for a little while, but there's just only so much to it. Never Player One says, did you ever feel burned by a music album? Well, I've bought very few brand new music albums. I don't know if because a lot of my music that I first got was just hand-me-downs from different people and stuff that again got left at my house. Because for some reason I have a good amount of rap and punk and thrash punk, which is kind of like thrash metal but not really. Thrash punk and reggae CDs in my house. For some reason, they just found their way into my house. I have no idea, and one time I might show those off, but I don't know how interesting that would be. Because people have asked me to show off my music collection, and that would take such a long time. It really, really, really would. I mean, I want to say there's close to 1,000 compact discs, cassettes, and vinyl records in my music collection. I don't own any 8-track tapes, not yet anyway. But honestly, truly honestly, oh goodness gracious. I've bought albums that I've regretted spending money on, but as music inflation has really, because now a song is really only worth $1. And there are, back in the 90s, there was a record store in the town that I grew up in that used to illegally, this is totally illegal, you can't do this, and some record stores still do it to this day, but they would sell the promo copies, the promo CDs. Now I think they just send them as MP3s now to play over at the store. But they would send these promo CDs, and I have a bunch of these promo CDs. And I only spend like a few bucks, and sometimes you'd get an album that was just crap. And when a CD is $4 and I spent $5 on it and it was crap, but luckily it was usually like really sucky death metal, and I for some reason had friends that were into really sucky death metal, so I'd like hand off my my dumb friends, here, have some of this. Oh yeah, oh that shit was brutal, man. I'm like, yeah, you ain't fucking kidding, but cool, if you like it, I'm glad. Ironmonger says, have you ever heard of the metal band for kids Sharky Sharky? I am not familiar with Sharky Sharky, but I'll check out Sharky Sharky when I get a chance. Let me see. Kit171, do you miss when consoles used to come in many colors, like what Nintendo used to do with the N64 and the GameCube? Well, they still do that now. The Wii came in many colors. The Wii U is available in multiple SKUs. The 3DS is available in multiple colors. The PS3 came out in a few different colors. There was all kinds of different looks for the Xbox 360. They still do that. It's just early, and no one has really bought enough. See, those are usually milestones. They usually celebrate large amounts of consoles being sold. That's not what's happening here, so they, stick to black because they want to. That's the real problem with the consoles. In the overall scheme of things, they so want to, over the years, have really wanted to blend into the home theater experience, and therefore they have they become less and less special, and I don't think they really realize that. There's so many devices in the American and, well, internationally, but in the home today, that each machine really needs to be a billboard for itself to remind you to use it. I'm sure there's other reasons for that, but let me see over here. Oh, we got some questions over here. Any advice on a Nintendo 64 that resets itself in the middle of a game? Yes, you have either a dirty power switch or a dirty reset switch. And for one reason or another, something in there is those switches are very sensitive, and when they get, it's probably clogged up with dust. What you're going to want to do is work those switches back and forth. You're going to want to get some some canned air from your local office supply store or wherever, and you're going to want to work the switch back and forth, because this means you're probably not using it very much. So work the switch back and forth, spray some air in there. Don't get any liquid in there. Don't do this while it's on either. Do this while it's turned off and unplugged. And do the same thing for the reset switch. Hold in the reset switch and spray it out. And do that. That should solve your problem. If not, then you may have a damaged cartridge port. So, and you could have a really dirty game. Is it happening on all the same games? So, if you have any serious questions like this, anything ongoing like this, feel free to drop me a line on my drop me a personal message on the Yellkaos Facebook page, because that goes right to me, and I can answer those very easily. So feel free to do that. So I hope so. And I did get a hell yeah about the snow thing, so I appreciate that. I really do. Let me see here. Nick Nack says it's cool that I listen to Millencolin. I didn't say I listen to Millencolin now. I have some Millencolin on my iTunes, and if it pops up in the shuffle, cool. I don't always go to right to Millencolin. But if I'm in the mood for punk, I'll go to like Dead Kennedys or the Misfits, or I like MXPX, even though they're a Christian band. I can let that go. Let me see. And it's pronounced Palkia Spamer. Okay. Palkia Spamer. Okay, I thought I pronounced that fairly close. Oh, Palkia Spammer. Oh, I'm sorry, I put an aim in there. So Palkia Spammer. Okay, I'll do my best to remember that. More Y plays. I'll see what I can do. I really will. Tried to do some Y plays for the Monster Mash this past year, and I did a bunch in succession, and the videos got corrupted, and I said, fuck this, I'm not doing it again, because one of them was Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles on the Wii, and that game is a bit frustrating for me. A lot of people like it, and I like it too, but it was just, I was having a real tough time with it, and I didn't want to go through with it again. So, if you guys want to see Y plays for Monster Mash, I'd be glad to do it, because I want to have a nice variety of material for the month of October. So, and please, leave your suggestions. I'm always willing to listen to suggestions and, do what I can to make all of your dreams come true. I feel that's sort of my lot in life, to make you guys feel appreciated, among other things. Robert Sanders wants to know if I ever played the ICP Insane Clown Posse Backyard Wrestling game. Yeah, fuck that game. If it's the game I'm thinking of. Backyard Wrestling is also not wrestling. It's fighting. Just because it's predetermined doesn't make it wrestling. Let me see. Sainted Illuminated wants to know how well I did on the Mario Kart 8 Online. I guess I did, win some, lose some. Only did really a handful of times. I noticed that people are cheating on there too, because people are just appearing out of walls and things like that. So, but like I said, win some, lose some. Let me see. Super Saiyan 3 Doman says, as a kid, what game did you play more, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat? I'll be perfectly honest, I think I played Mortal Kombat. I didn't like Mortal Kombat very much as I liked Mortal Kombat 2, and I really think that was the peak of the series, unfortunately, because now it's just Virtua Fighter with, style, particularly stylized graphical capability. But between Mortal Kombat, I think you mean Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2, I would say that I played. Trying to think, what did I play? Street Fighter 2 more than I played. In the arcade, I'd say I played Mortal Kombat 2 more than I played Street Fighter 2. But on the console, I tend to enjoy Street Fighter 2 more, now as an adult. Don't get me wrong, and I've said this before, get a room full of dudes who know what they're doing at Mortal Kombat 2, preferably arcade, but if you have to do it at home, I'm sure there are great versions to do it with at home. And you have to have yourself a really good time, because that game is full of stuff. If you're doing it by yourself, not as great. So that's one of those games that if you got a room full of dudes who really know what they're doing, you got yourself a good time on your hands, my friend. Let me see here. Lewis Williams wants to know how many hours a day I play guitar. Lately, not very much. But typically, I've been very busy with other things. But typically, when I'm practicing, I practice every day. I try and at least do an hour a day, at least. When you get a little bit older, I shouldn't say a little bit older, but because I have a family, my wife, and our house to take care of and things like that. So I don't have as much time to devote to it as I would like to. That's going to change soon because I'm going to be doing more things musically, hopefully very soon. So I'm going to have to get back on my game. But I try to play for at least 1 hour a day, and if nothing else, warm up and just play some songs you like, just something, just to keep you loose. If that's what you're asking. Robert Sanders rented Mario is Missing once. I rented Mario is Missing once. I don't know why I was surprised that Mario was missing. Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to have to refresh the comments here so I can see what all you fine folks are saying, because sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. And also, let me see. Let me make sure that no one's trying to get my attention elsewhere on the internet. No, I guess not. So, also, I guess since I got a time on my hands, I'm gonna take a second here. I want to do one more time, plug the Hate Bit Podcast Network of Hate on Facebook. If you're not a member, join today, and you'll be thankful you did. So let me see here. Let me see here. Nope. Nobody's got anything over there for me, so we'll have to drop down below and see what we're missing. So let me see here. Robert Sanders wants to know if I have an opinion on what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri. I don't know what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri. Are we talking about the police brutality thing? It's a bunch of bullshit. Lewis Williams wants to know how Saint Magnus is doing. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Saint Magnus in quite some time. I understand that he's not going to be on YouTube now for a while or something, so there's that. Kishiro wants more Y plays. Well, then I'll do everything I can to bring them out. I'll do my very best. Ian Hutchinson says most overrated Iron Maiden album. I don't know. There's so many Iron Maiden albums that I don't know what people really think of them, and I don't put too much stock into what other people think of music albums. I try my hardest not to. But I will say that my favorite, or my least favorite Iron Maiden record, which was The Dance of Death. Was it The Dance of Death? Or no, The Final Frontier. It was The Final Frontier that there was nothing there. It reminded me of the Judas Priest album, the Nostradamus album. It's like there's not really anything here. I mean, there's a couple of catchy bits, but, and there are people that say they love it. It's like, fine, good for you. Nicholas Kennedy says he spent $4 on a brand new copy of Unreal Estate by Entombed. It was $4 too much. Yeah, Entombed, they're like anybody else. They have their good days. They have their bad days. Sark Slim wants to know how much time I have to sit down and enjoy games. As of late, just because of so much goings on, and also getting ready for the Classic Gaming Expo, which is taking up a lot more of my time than I expected. Not in a bad way, but just there's a lot of loose ends to be nailed down. Just to make sure everything goes over right. That's what we got to do. I don't have as much time as I'd like. I try and play my 3DS for at least a half an hour before I go to bed, because I've got so much before I go to bed, and this is Yellkaos for us. Going to bed just takes so long, just because there's so much to do. Play with the cat and read whatever I'm reading, because I'm trying to read a little bit more. I gotta keep up on wrestling. I don't know why I have to, but I feel as though it's my duty, it's my responsibility. Because if I don't watch it, I don't know what's broken, and I can't tell you all, and then it doesn't help if we turn a blind eye to what's wrong, especially in the majestic sport that is ours. How big is my backlog? I have no idea. I don't even keep a backlog at this point. I'm just trying to play games whenever I get the chance. So, I hope I answered your question. Have I ever heard of the Japanese metal band Versailles? I'm not familiar with Versailles. I'm familiar with Bernie Versailles, who played guitar in Engine and Fate's Warning, but no, I'm not familiar with Versailles. Do I like the band Flesh God Apocalypse? I think Flesh God Apocalypse is okay. Nicholas Kennedy says he would love to get all the promo CDs for Bloodbath and Torture Killer. I happen to have a couple of Bloodbath and Torture Killer promo CDs. I happen to be a pretty big fan of Torture Killer myself. At least, there's two albums I like. Sewers, and then the one with Chris Barnes. What was that one called? Can't remember off the top of my head. Freak. If I remember, I'll tell you. Let me see. Let me see. Havel the Rock took a very painful dump. Good for him. Let's hope it was worth it, huh? Have I heard of Unlocking the Truth? Are we talking about the black kids that... Yeah, I heard them. No, I don't find them to be of... I've heard a couple of their songs, and I don't see it. I'm sorry. I have a very stiff, brutal opinion of kid bands, because they need to get freaking used to really stiff, brutal opinions. I don't want to discourage them from doing what they're doing, but, finish school. Don't screw around with playing music when you're that young. 13 years old, you haven't learned about the things that will piss you off later in life, that will cause you to write the songs that could affect a generation. So, yeah. And for those of you who don't realize, record deals are more or less slavery. So, if you like them, I'm glad, but I just hope those kids stay in school and don't let the pie-in-the-sky BS of playing music for a living get ahead of you and get in between what's really important. So, let me see here. If I'm not talking, it's because I'm scrolling through the questions. I'm scrolling through the questions because I don't want anyone to feel left out, Oh, Super No Show. I left this one out. It says, have I got to play Paper Mario Sticker Star? Yes, I have, and it's harder than I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it. I've put a few hours in, and I'm not used to the control mechanics as best as I'd like to be. So, but it's fun. It's very charming, and I enjoy it. But is it my favorite Paper Mario? I don't know. I always see there are people that play the Paper Mario games all the time, and I play them when they come out. So, and I haven't played the Paper Mario in quite some time. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just reading through questions here. Let me see. Chaldeo the horse, which is a heck of a name, says, "Hey Chaos, hey dude." He says, "I just got into my second year of high school. I'm terribly sorry." And he says, "I want to know if you have any tips or a survival guide to give people high school, also known as hell school." Well, let's see, second year of high school, so that would make you what, 15? 15 is going to be an interesting year. Don't trust girls. if I could give you one tip, and if you have any tips, if you have any tips, if you have any questions about this sort of thing and you need any advice, you can always contact me on the Facebook or on the Twitter if you want to be more specific. But don't trust girls. I mean that, and even if they're really nice and they really like you and they sucked your dick that one time at the football game or something like that, do not trust them. High school girls, most of the time, are after the bigger, better deal. And I don't mean in terms of size always. So don't get discouraged. But don't trust girls. If I could give you no other piece of advice, one piece of advice that would really stick out is don't trust the girls. Don't trust the teachers either. And especially don't trust school officials, like the superintendent and all that shit. Those are a bunch of fucking politicians who do not have your best interests at heart. So, remember that. I found that out the hard way. I want you to know this in advance so you're not blindsided by it in your senior year when some bullshit goes down and you can't do anything about it because you found out too late. Don't trust those people. And if they wonder why, they wonder why you don't trust them, because Yellkaos told you. Because he knows. He went through it. This guy right here suffered through some serious shit, and I don't want the same for you. Let me see here. I'm trying to see the questions. Let me see here. Hold on a second. I know we come to a point like this on the show where I'm just, just scrolling through the comments. Oh, excuse me. Belched right there in front of everybody. Just almost ruined the program. So if you'll give me just a minute, I want to find the question. See, there you go, hiccuping and belching and just going to ruin this program. Then we're going to have to leave. And we can't have that. That's just not fair to anybody. So, let me see. Well, this is not working. That's a real shame. But anyway, what are we doing over here? Do I let me see. Oh, Mike Kitchen dropped me a line over here. Mike says, "Hey Chaos, hey Mike." He says, "Mansfield, Ohio is a shithole." So I heard. He says, "and rather snowy during the winter. What are your favorite Saturn games?" Man, that was a Russo caliber swerve just then. Shithole, snowy Saturn games. I don't have a whole lot of hands-on experience with the Sega Saturn, but the games that I enjoy, there's a great version of Afterburner on there. There's a great version of Outrun. If you tuned into Ed's stream that we did last week, we tried to talk about Saturn games, but a great version of Outrun on there. Virtua Fighter 2 is pretty hot over there, and Virtua Cop. So those are all pretty cool games. If you notice, whenever it's a Sega console, I immediately gravitate towards Sega-developed and published games because they know what they're doing, obviously. And Michael says, "Do you think the console would have been a success if they released more of their Japanese library over here along with better marketing?" Mike, if you really look through history about Sega of America from, say, 1993 through 1999, it almost seemed like they were at war with Sega of Japan. And that's really... The Saturn was defeated, if nothing else, by hubris. The Sega Saturn was kind of defeated by the Sega 32X. The Sega 32X, they almost put turd in there, I didn't mean to. The Sega 32X, I think, was the beginnings of people when they started having this notion of shovelware. And, it's really... I don't know. I really think that the Saturn could have, but that really boils down to people. And it seems like all the wrong people were making all the wrong decisions at all the wrong times. And that's a real shame. Because the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast could have really been something. The Dreamcast would have been something totally different if the Saturn had fared well, if the 32X had fared well. But you know, they learned that releasing there's more to success in the video game industry than simply releasing hardware. You know, as a lot of people are learning right now. So that's something to take into account. Let me see here. We got another question here. Stephanie Dunnigan, holy smoke, a young lady, dropping us a line here on the Yellkaos program. What are my thoughts on the Resident Evil remake? Interesting you ask. I'm not opposed to it. I really want everyone to not put all their eggs in one basket, because if this thing sucks, some people are going to have heart attacks and they're going to be genuinely surprised. And why would you be surprised? You know, I hope it's good, and I hope people enjoy it, and I hope it moves some units, and I hope it makes people happy. Because right now, Resident Evil needs all the help it can get. I honestly believe that. I mean that. Sincerely, honestly, you know, all that sort of thing. So, what else here? Let me see. I got to refresh now to get the new question. Who was my favorite wrestler during the Attitude Era and my least favorite? I guess I didn't answer that question. From the Attitude Era? I didn't like the Attitude Era. I tried. My favorite wrestler, outside of, you know, The Rock and Stone Cold, who were really good, Taka Michinoku. Taka Michinoku did great things in that era, and really got jerked around with the whole light heavyweight thing. So that's all I can really say. And my least favorite from the Attitude Era, my least favorite really in the mid card or the main event of any era of professional wrestling is Triple H. I don't think he's all that special. I'm glad he's a name, and I'm glad people cheer for him, but he doesn't do a goddamn thing for me, and I don't think he ever will. And, you know, he's not Lemmy. Let me see. EdG1138 says he wouldn't call Mansfield a shithole. The people from neighboring town of Ontario think it is, but they are assholes. Oh. Ed, are you saying that? Is Mike Kitchen from Ontario, Ohio? I understand that Toledo's kind of a shithole. You know, Toledo's the one that's full of all. I think it's Toledo. It's full of all that new construction that nobody's using, and have like abandoned hotels on the waterfront and stuff. Insane. Ed T1138 also says, you know, helping out with my piece of advice earlier, says that girls are the devil at age 15. That's very true. And Ed's going to have a 15-year-old before he knows it, and then Mr. Yellkaos may have to travel to Ohio to help Ed T1138 straighten some stuff out. You know, because when they get to be about that age, that's when they need the sidewalk slam. You know, because they're horrible, and they're getting breasts, or they're not, and they're pissed off about that. It's a terrible time. It really is. You know, it's awful. You know, and that's what I'm really worried about, because my little brother is going to be 15 pretty soon, and he's going to start bringing girls around, and I know I'm going to want to fucking just choke slam one of these bitches, because I don't know, I don't want to say bad things about my brother, but he might be a sucker. We don't know yet. You know, I try and guide him as best I can, but he might bring some stupid bitch that I'm just going to have to sidewalk slam right through my mother's coffee table just to, you know, prove a point. Then I'm going to owe my mother a fucking coffee table. This is not going to be a great day for anybody. Nick Knack wants to know if I've heard of Body Count. Of course I heard of Body Count. I lived through the 90s. You know, Cop Killer and shit. Yeah, I enjoy Body Count. I enjoy Ice-T anytime, especially with lemon. No, Ice-T is the coolest, and I enjoyed him on Homicide and Law and Order Special Victims Unit, even though that show's a bit much for me. Nicholas Kennedy says that the Chris Barnes album is called Swarm. Yeah, I enjoy Swarm. A lot of people didn't like that album, but I don't care what they think. What's your favorite release from Bloodbath? I would have to go with the Breeding Death EP, because that's the one with Blasting the Virgin Born, but also the first album they did, which I can't, Nightmares Made Flesh. That's a really good one too. That's a really good one. I like that one. Oh, and Nicholas Kennedy likes the Breeding Death EP. Well, good choice. Resurrection Through Carnage. That's a good one. He enjoys the Bloodbath album, Resurrection Through Carnage. That's a pretty good one too. But Nightmares Made Flesh, I'd go with that one. Let me see here. Happy Panda Dude, who always makes me smile because he looks like Carlton Banks. At least the picture up there. Let me see here. He says, have you ever gotten into an online game, maybe even addicted? No. I don't have a very high opinion of dealing with large amounts of people, especially through the internet, because a lot of people think that they're invincible over the internet and will say things to hurt people's feelings and feel that there should be no recourse or repercussion for the deeds that have transpired. So I don't really go into those places. I usually only interact with people where I'm within arm's reach, you know. Because I don't claim to be the baddest dude on the planet, but I could definitely punch the fuck out of a mouth that's moving a bit too quickly, you know. So, but no, I've never been. I don't think I've ever been addicted to an online game. The most I've ever been addicted. I shouldn't say addicted. The most I've ever enjoyed online was when AOL Instant Messenger was a brand new thing, and you could meet girls through the internet, and girls weren't afraid of the internet because there wasn't a reason to be terrified of the internet yet. So, don't get me wrong. I mean, that was my teenage years. You know, talking to fat girls. You know, which don't get me wrong. You know, fat girls are always interesting. And apparently they're a fetish now, so good for them. Fat girls need to be, you know, a little more aware of that they can use that to their advantage. Don't be ashamed either. You know, just be yourself and flaunt that shit. Lewis Williams says, what's my favorite style of metal to play? From a guitar perspective, I write thrash. Thrash is, along with Dixieland Jazz, is my, you know, one of my original loves in the world in terms of art, not just in music, but as art, and all that it's come to symbolize. But my favorite style of metal to play that's just plain fun is a style of metal called slam metal. Bands like slam metal and grindcore, like Suffocation being an example of slam metal, and grindcore like Dying Fetus and Exhumed, and you know, some of the hip hop influenced slam type stuff. I enjoyed playing that. That's just a lot of fun, and it's really easy to write, and you can do a lot of interesting things with it, and it doesn't need very strict melodies. You know, you can more or less just, if you're familiar with the Frank Zappa album Jazz from Hell, you can kind of do that with grindcore and slam metal. You can just like stack riffs on top of riffs, and no matter what it is, as long as it sounds fairly chaotic and kind of groovy, you've got it. You know, so I enjoy doing that. I've never played in a slam or grindcore band. I intend to do a slam/grindcore album, or you know, EP. You know, a handful of songs in the coming years. I just have to get around to it. So, yeah. Let me see. Lone Wolf Warrior 93 says, are there any games in particular you are seeking out that you hope to find at the Classic Gaming Expo? Yes. It's interesting you brought that up. Mrs. Yellkaos and I, over dinner last night, were discussing that. We were discussing that one of the games, I think it was called Panic on the Sega CD, which looks to be one of the strangest games I have ever seen, which we saw on GameSack, as a matter of fact. That was fantastic. Another one that I'm looking for hardware, too. The hardware that's really important to me is the Dreamcast mouse, the Dreamcast keyboard, the PlayStation mouse, and for the Dreamcast, I really would like to get a hold of the Typing of the Dead, which looks like a great game, and I would really love to see Mrs. Yellkaos' mother, my mother-in-law. I imagine she would dominate at that. There really needs to be a Y play. I want to show off. Once I get an Atari 5200, you're going to see the Atari 5200 version of Centipede with Mrs. Yellkaos dominating, or Mrs. Yellkaos' mother, rather. I forget how I said that. Dominating. So there'll be that. And then we'll also do one with her dominating at Typing of the Dead, because if I didn't tell you, Mrs. Yellkaos' mother is a retired court reporter. And her typing slowly is faster than I could ever hope to ultimately become as a typist. You guys got to see it. It's something else. So we'll have that on the Yellkaos program eventually, because that'll be a real something. And then there's other games. What was the one that I really wanted to get? Oh, Super Punch-Out for the Super NES. I don't have that one, and Punch-Out for the Wii. I don't have that one either. So I hope to come across those, and I'm sure there's others. But those are the ones that really stick out that I really hope to come across at the Expo this year, or at least in that same span of time. So yeah, and now that we're into our second hour, I guess I can plug the Classic Gaming Expo again, folks. I want to remind you to cruise out to Classic Gaming Expo. This will also give you time to conjure up some questions if you have any. You guys might be strapped for questions, and that's okay. I'll just talk here for a little while. But I want to remind you to go out to the Classic Gaming Expo. You've heard me talk about it before. We've been once before. Classic Gaming Expo 2014. This year, September 12th, 13th, and 14th at the Riviera in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Riviera Hotel, Casino, and Convention Space in Las Vegas, Nevada. Actually in Winchester, Nevada, but we won't tell anybody. Or maybe we will. In fact, we just did. So check that out. For more information, go to cgexpo.com. There's going to be all kinds of cool people cruising around there, as far as I know. Myself and Syphic, he'll be there, and Air Force Shields, and R-Rob78, and those guys, and quite a few people that live around the Las Vegas area. And I hope that if you're at the Classic Gaming Expo and you see me, feel free to say hello. I really hope that you do that, because I'd love to, say hello and shake hands and meet with the fine folks that come out to Kaos Tonight, because I once again really appreciate you guys doing what you do, and I appreciate that you appreciate that I do what I do. Something like that. Something just like that. So either way, I appreciate it, and thank you. So yeah, if you're in Las Vegas, Nevada around that time, if you'd like to go, I swear to you, it's the WrestleMania of classic gaming, or the WrestleMania of gaming expos. It's really the place to be. And as far as I know, the first paying homage to this grand tradition of ours. So that's the way I refer to retro gaming now, this grand tradition of ours, because it really is a grand tradition. You may not realize it, but you are engaging in history. For those of you that play video games, any video games of any kind, you're engaging in history, and you're helping to shape the way things will be years from now. And for that, I commend you. I'm helping. I'm doing as best I can. Of course, I'm also, fucking around playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. So don't tell me that I don't, that I'm not knee deep in it, because I am. And I appreciate you guys coming out. So yeah, if you're available, don't forget Classic Gaming Expo. I know I've said that 100,000 times right now, and I'm going to say it another 100,000 times to make sure that everybody knows about this, because despite the fact that they're doing everything they can to advertise about this thing, not enough people on YouTube are really making it aware, or making people aware of this event. And it's a grand and glorious event. And I hope every one of you will be there. And if you can't make it, that's all right. But make sure and watch Full Metal Vegas. Should be out hopefully late September. Right around the same time the 8-Bit Podcast comes back. Hopefully. So hopefully we get a lot of good footage and we have a great time. And if you see me there and you want to be in Full Metal Vegas, let me know. We'll shoot the stuff. We'll talk a little bit. We'll cut a promo. We'll do something. We'll have a great time. So let me see here. Let me see. Let me see here. Ian Hutchinson says, if someone knocked on your door right now after opening it, how the fuck did you find my house? and they tell you, I'm your biggest fan, quote, I'm your biggest fan, and I have come to hang out with you. What would I do? And you're not going to, well, I don't think you'd make the trip from Sacramento to San Diego. That's a long way. If someone came to my house, well, first, how the fuck did you find my house? And number two, probably not right now. You know, it would really depend on who it is. You know, if it's somebody really pushy, I don't like dealing with pushy people. Sorry, I just don't. You know, and I'd probably ask them to leave. Or, you know, go to the nearest bar and I'll see you in about an hour and a half, something like that. Just depends on the person, you know. Really, I don't mean to insult your question, Ian, but it's similar to a question that a lot of people ask. Like I throughout my high school years and even into my adult years, a lot of people are like, dude, would you have sex with a dude? I was like, I don't know. Is it a good-looking dude? You know, like all people and sexual attraction works the same on all levels. You know, I don't know. If they were a really nice person and they seemed like I could hang out with them and be like, yeah, wait a minute. You know, but just immediately assuming just because they showed up, I don't know. I don't mean to discount your question, but it's just I try to treat people as individuals. I try to treat every situation as unique because realistically they are. You know, you can never treat two things exactly the same because they're not. So, Ironmonger says, do you have any tips for someone who wants to start play guitar but has no idea where to start? Well, first you're going to need a guitar. And then you're going to want to get yourself a chord dictionary. And also learn the chords. And if you have any other questions, you can find me on Facebook or on Twitter. And feel free to ask any specific questions. But if I could recommend you to start anywhere, you need a guitar. Hopefully it has strings on it. A tuner would be nice. Electronic tuner I recommend because the pitch pipe, you're not ready for a pitch pipe if you don't know how to play guitar. And a chord dictionary. Those things can be had very easily. You can find all of those in thrift stores nowadays. Just find a halfway decent guitar. It doesn't need to be an expensive guitar. Just a guitar with 6 strings, hopefully, and a chord dictionary. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Facebook and on Twitter. And right here. So the reason I tell you that I really give you such a blanket answer is because once you have those things, you'll know what questions need to be asked. So do that, and then we can go from there. All right, buddy? Hope I didn't sound too condescending just then. Lewis Williams says the last 3 Iron Maiden records were boring. Well, has there been 3 albums? The last one that I bought was Brave New World. And the last time I saw Iron Maiden, that was still part of their last 3 albums, and that was 100 years ago when that album came out. I saw them a few years ago. And they were okay. You know, they play mostly new stuff, and they played stuff from Brave New World, and I knew those songs. Everything else is just like, all right. You know? Ooh, that guy looks really high, you know. That's, you know, and I couldn't go get a beer because the beer was $14, so I just had to stand there and deal with it, I guess. Robert Sanders talking about, I guess, what's going on in Missouri. There's riots and the feds are getting involved. Well, yeah, people have had enough, you know. I guess I'd be mad about it, but, you know, there's never a need for riots because you're not going to solve anything. In the grand scheme of things, lawyers, politicians, and police forces have turned your laws against you, and violent uprising is not going to do it. I'm sorry, because they have the technology to stop you. Unless you can get close to 1 million of your friends, then, and only then, would you really be unstoppable, and if you had weapons, you'd do even better. But I can't say I can condone rioting. I really can't. There are other ways of handling things. I know that might sound like I'm, you know, being a passive type person, and you know, I don't believe in violence. You know, to solve problems. Violence doesn't solve problems. I believe, you know, violence for defense. And combat sports is, you know, something else. Like, I don't really support that too much either. But I just can't say that I can condone rioting. You know. Because rioting is, you know, usually it's 2 or 3 people who are genuinely angry about a situation and feel oppressed and they're not being helped and they will take the law into their own hands. But about 90% of it is fuckers who want to destroy things and loot and rob and steal. and all that really does is take you to now less than zero. You know, if you think you had nothing before, you after riots you will have less than nothing, and I can't condone that sort of thing. Protest is one thing, riots are another. Let me see. What do I think of esports? I'm not sure what esports are. Are esports where dudes just sit in a room and play Call of Duty against each other, and then somebody wins? It's like virtual paintball for fat asses? They're not all fat, I shouldn't say that, but is that what we're talking about? Because if that's the case, hey, good for them. If you're good at something, by all means, go for it. Should you make a living at it? If someone wants to pay you to do something you're good at, cool. You know, the same issue I have with people who want to go into pornography. Like, you know, if you think you can make good money sucking pole, good for you. Do that. If someone wants to pay you money and you think that you can make a better life for yourself by doing that, I mean, don't get any diseases or nothing, but do it. You know, as long as you feel that you are not being violated, you are not being used or exploited in any way, then I'm all for it. You know, if you're being exploited and you can't see it, I might have to tell you. You know, but I'll try and be as gentle as I can when I tell you. I'll try not to hurt anybody's feelings. So yeah, there's that. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong about what esports is, because that reminds me, since I've got it on my mind, as soon as you jogged some memory from me, talking about the Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. In Las Vegas, Nevada, the new GameWorks, Sega GameWorks, is opening just south of the Strip at Town Square in Enterprise, Nevada. So just a little south of the Strip, just a smidge, and I mean like just a few blocks. It's actually probably like a mile and a half. But there's new GameWorks, and if you're not familiar with GameWorks, it's kind of like Dave & Buster's, but you know, more games. Dave & Buster's seems to have a bunch of, you know, Fruit Ninja arcade games and stuff, so that's their problem. But more games, and also there's a partnership with Sega. So go check that out. They have an esports arena over there. So once again, I'm not really sure what that means. I'm gonna have to poke my head in and see what that's all about, and just to, you know, clarify what it is that I do and do not understand. So yeah, hopefully we're talking about the same thing. Robert Sanders says it's that with commentary. Okay. See, I could do commentary on that sort of thing. I would love to do commentary. My real dream, I shouldn't say a dream, but something I'd love to do, and you guys have to admit, I would be amazing at this. If you watch the Smash Brothers Invitational Tournament that went on at E3 this year, I would be perfect for that. Tell me I wouldn't. I would be perfect for that. But of course, being the guy that I am, I'd have to root for all the heels. You know, like, and Bowser destroys Princess Peach because she's a bitch. You know, things like that. I could do that, and I hope to do that one day. I also hope to be involved in a 24-hour gaming stream one day, similar to like the Zelda Dungeon guys. They do their 24-hour or 36-hour streams. I've always wanted to do that. So that's one of the things I wanted to do when I first came to YouTube, and no one's ever invited me to something like this. So hopefully one day I will. Kitschoriyukin condones Quiet Riot. I can't say that I would argue with that. I condone a little bit of Quiet Riot myself. Whatever gets you to bang your head and come on and feel the noise, you know, can't possibly be a bad thing. So, let me see. Kids171 says, what happened to gaming contests? Well, what gaming contest are you talking about? He says, I used to hear about a lot of them in the 90s and even the early 2000s, but then they seem to disappear for some reason. Well, the reason is that gaming is part of the mainstream now. It doesn't need that. But they're still here and there. I mean, those kind of evolved into what we were talking about already. Esports and invitational tournaments and Evo. I would love to attend Evo just to see the Smash Brothers thing. Hopefully Evo next year will feature Smash Brothers U, which I think will be really cool. And if Nintendo Smart, they'll get involved in that and use that as a promotional thing. But I'm sure by then they'll have been tired of promoting Smash Brothers because it'll have been out already. But I think that would be cool. So I hope one day to go to Evo in Las Vegas. But Evo is in like July, and It is brutal in Las Vegas in July. So, oh, I take that back. I think Nintendo did do some coverage and did do something with Evo this year. So hopefully, Smash Brothers U will be out for the Wii U will be out, and they'll take advantage of that. One day I'll make it out to that because I'd love to see that. And there's all sorts of people there, so you can do all kinds of things. I'm sure that'll turn into a much bigger event in the coming years. I feel that way. I really do. So, let me see here. Ian Hutchinson says that his Roller Coaster Tycoon is in his top favorite games, 5 favorite games of all time. As with mine, I have to kind of stop playing it after a little while because it does begin to piss me off a little. But then I come back to it and right back where I started. That one and The Sims. I never moved past the first Sims. But when I started getting like all the different expansion packs, like, okay, that's too much. There's too much to keep up with. It's more complicated than my real life, and that's a shame. What guitar makers do I like? Individual guitar makers? I don't know a lot that are still alive. I know I like Neil Moser. But if you mean brands, I collect BC Rich guitars to this day. You guys might not know that. I don't know if you've seen. I do have a good size. I think I did a couple of videos with a few of my pieces from my collection. I'll have to show it off. I've been meaning to bring back Guitar Story so I can show off a couple of guitars that have been sitting around. There's a guitar just off screen that you can't see that no one has, at least in terms of my music career, stuff that's only been in the vault and no one's ever seen before. And I'm going to show it off pretty soon. So it might not be very exciting, but I'm going to show it off anyway. But I'm a fan of BC Rich guitars. Brands that I don't like, and I'm generalizing, of course. Gibson guitars. I think Gibson guitar quality control is horribly off-putting for the amount of money that you have to invest to say you own a Gibson guitar. Almost any of them, especially on the Les Pauls. I can't believe what they charge for these production line Les Pauls. They're handmade, don't get me wrong, but the quality control is just not there. Bad fret jobs, I've seen bad binding, I've seen paint bleed, which is fine considering the fact that they're production guitars, but they cost $2,000 and $3,000. And I don't know who's got that kind of money just to throw around on some fucking guitar that no one cared to really finish. So, them and Fender. Fender are immensely overpriced, but Fender has better quality control. So, other brands that I like Agile guitars, which are Chinese and Korean made guitars, which you can only get through rondomusic.com now. I've played a few of those, and I like those a lot. Those are actually made really well. I'm really surprised that I enjoy. I will admit this. I like Asian imported guitars. I really do. I think that American handmade guitars are great, but I think that they, like a lot of industries, are not ready to let go of their high-priced lifestyle, and therefore things are really expensive. And they try and insulate that, but there's just so many companies in that market, and that market gets smaller and smaller all the time because the only way left to make music is to travel and do it live, and there's less people doing that now because the price of petroleum is through the roof. So I know that became a much bigger answer to your question, but yeah, those are a few companies that I don't like, and then a company here in San Diego, Carvin, who you can find at carvin.com, Carvin, like carving with no G on the end, CARVIN.com, make great instruments, a little pricey, but they're handmade right here in San Diego, and that's important to me. They make some good stuff, so I recommend them highly. So, yeah. Let me see here. Let me get a few more questions and I'll get out of your guys' hair. And I really thank you guys for stopping in. I really do. Let me see. Majesty ZX, or ZX, excuse me, says, would you ever get into home brewing, collecting or playing for systems? I'm kind of in the homebrew scene, and I look for those games. They're just so expensive. If I ever saw a game that really struck my fancy, absolutely. Collecting large amounts of them for what they go for, I'm going to have to wait until, because they'll get old too, and I'll pick them up from somebody else. And as those kind of get shuffled into the retro games, they'll be more accepted. But yeah, I look forward to. I'm always on the lookout for new games. I don't care where they come from, so long as they're good and they're worth my time and money. That's what's most important. Because I love indie games too. I love games. I don't care where they come from, as long as they're fun, and they're worth my time and money. Kit171 wants to know: did I ever use the Game Shark, Game Genie, or Code Breaker? I have no experience with the Code Breaker or the Game Shark. I own a Game Shark. I have it around here somewhere, but I've never used it. Yeah, I have a Game Shark, but I've never used it. And the Game Genie, we used the Game Genie back in the 90s, and I'm pretty sure that's what ruined my NES, so I will never use one again. But they're neat for what they are. I think that some games have entirely too many codes, and some games have entirely too few codes. But yeah, if you don't mind them kind of wrecking the pins on your NES or whatever, I guess they're not so bad. But the NES one is the one that's real problematic. Yeah, not opposed to it. I don't really like them too much. Did I use them to beat games? To beat Zelda the first time, I used to beat the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. I used the Game Genie. Made me smile. Made me think about way back when being a kid. Let me see. Ian Hutchinson says 18-year-olds are equally bad. I think he's comparing them to 15-year-old girls because they think they know everything. Ian, you're going to have to learn this, and I'm sure you may have learned it already, but everybody on this whole damn planet thinks they know everything. And that's exactly the problem. So, Kenshiro Online says, favorite Kamen Rider. I don't know what that means. He says, you don't have to answer that. I don't know what that means. And he wants to let me know that I am awesome. I don't know how awesome I am. I mean, do I strike awe into you? Do all of you have awe? Are you awe-strucken or stricken or something? Something? Are you? No? Oh, well, that's a shame. No, but I thank you for the kind words. I really do. I really appreciate it. Let me see here. Ian Hutchinson wants to know, 2 genres of music should never be crossed together. Yeah. House music and dubstep should never be mixed together because then you'll see what they really are. They're just techno in disguise. I'm so sick of that crap. It's just techno. Quit trying to pretend that you have a different style of music just because you gave it a different name. Dubstep. God, what kind of a stoned asshole came up with that name? Let me see here. Super Saiyan 3 Domon says, what do you think about the new Tomb Raider game being a Microsoft exclusive? I found out earlier today that it's not. So I really wish they would make an exclusive or make it not an exclusive. Make up your damn mind. This timed exclusive stuff looks like crap in the long run. I know it might work for business purposes, but it really shows that the major publishers have no balls. They don't have the brass nerve to really shoulder some intensity and do this thing. They have no balls. None. Bastards. I shouldn't call them bastards, but they're bastards anyway. Take a couple, and then we're going to get out of here. Let me see here. Palkia Spammer, do I like Kevin Smith? I like Kevin Smith. I've watched An Evening with Kevin Smith once before, and the few things he did like that, which are not that different from Kaos Tonight, as a matter of fact, if you notice. I realize now I'm kind of using that format, but F it, I'll do it anyway. I believe that good storytelling is good no matter what the medium and what the format. And I try to be a good storyteller as best I can. So, what else? Oh, and Lewis Williams, who's turning 20 next week. Well, good for you. Don't trust women. Don't get married. You'll be ready to be married when you're... When I say so, that's when. All of you, as a matter of fact. If you're thinking about getting married, I want you to send me an email or something and say, Yo, Chaos, am I ready to get married? And I'll tell you. I mean, I can't stop you from doing what you're doing, but, you know, I'm here to help. You know, I want everyone to know that don't rush into things. In fact, that's a piece of advice I give to everybody right now. Marriage does not fix a troubled relationship, and babies do not fix troubled marriages. Remember I said that. Now, Lewis is turning 20 next week. Happy birthday. He says, since you're giving advice to the younger generation, well, there's a lot of different younger generations. I try to make sure that my message spans all generations, because you young guys, and you really young guys, see, that's the thing. There's a real wide variety of people who watch the Yellkaos program. I know there's kids that are teenagers, young teenagers, like my man Jarvis Greaves. He's a young guy, but he's always up in here, and I appreciate him for coming in and doing that sort of thing and being active on there. I really do. And then we got guys in their late teens. I got guys in their early 20s, late 20s, early 30s. I got guys in their middle 40s. There's even dudes watching right now, and they know who they are, who are in their middle 50s and enjoy the Yellkaos program. And I appreciate every single one of you. I really do. So, yeah, but he wants to know what he should expect in the future. Well, Lewis, you live in England. So I'm sure you've heard this throughout your life. Look, you're British, so you might want to scale it back a little bit. But if you haven't, then that's all right. Don't trust women, and when you're 21, that doesn't mean you need to get drunk on your birthday. You can. It's okay. Just make sure you got people around you that you can trust to get you home, and make sure they don't want to see you on a mechanical bull or something. So, and if I could give any advice to get you through the rest of your life, you'll need a sharp hook or a sharp tongue and a pretty good right hook. Not all the time, just sometimes. You have to be prepared for things like that. Anyway, that's my time, y'all. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys for coming out here tonight on Kaos Tonight. I will see you next week. I want to remind you to follow me on the Facebook, on the Twitter. There's all that information down there, so please check it out. Also, if I didn't answer your question and you're watching this in your rerun, please feel free. Drop your question down below, and I'll respond via text, or I'll reply to it. I promise I will, unless it's a really stupid question. I'm kidding. There are no stupid questions. They're just stupid people. But I want to remind you to follow me on the Facebook, follow me on the Twitter, check me out the Nintendo MiiVerse if you got time on your hands. Also want to remind you, folks, don't forget Classic Gaming Expo and Full Metal Vegas. Check it out. cgexpo.com. That's my time. You guys are beautiful. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. I hope you had a great time, and I hope to see you next week. Also reminding you, I'm Yellkaos, and you guys are beautiful. Take care of each other, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.